Students, am I audible? Can you see the slide? Can anyone reply yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we'll be discussing on the essentials of insurance contract, which is very important for you to understand. So what exactly are the essentials of this particular contract? The first and the foremost thing is offers and acceptance. So now, what is offer and acceptance? Normally there exists an agreement between the two parties in insurance contract. So this agreement comes into force when one party proposes and the other party accepts the proposal, right? So what happens here, students, in insurance contract? The offer for entering into the contract, generally it will come from the insured, and the insurance company gives the acceptance. Few more students are waiting for joining. Then we have the second important essential of insurance contract, that's called free consent. See, the parties to the contract must be of the same mind, and there must be a free consent between the two parties. When there is the free consent is not possible, or when there is not free consent except fraud, the consent becomes avoidable at the option of the party whose consent was so caused. So if there is a fraud, the contract would be void. Then we have the third essential of the insurance contract, that's called competent to make contact. So what do you mean by competent to make contact? We'll understand that. See, both proposer and acceptor of the contract should be competent to contract. Normally what happens, a person of unsound mind, or an undischarged insolvent and a criminal cannot enter into the contract. See, contract made by incompetent party or parties will be again void. Then we have lawful object, the fourth essential of insurance contract. See, in order to make a contract valid, the object of the agreement should be lawful. So when I say lawful, an object that is not forbidden by law, or is it not immoral, or it cannot be opposed to public policy, or which does not defeat the provision of any law, which is considered as lawful. For example, please understand this: an insurance contract related with the risk of smuggling will not be valid, because objective of smuggling is not lawful. It is against the law, right? So that is lawful object. Then the fifth essential of the insurance contract is called legal consideration. The agreement is enforceable only when the contract is supposed by consideration. Then the premium, being the valuable consideration, must be given for starting the insurance contract. And please understand here, the premium amount or the amount of premium is not important to begin the contract. The fact is that without the payment of the premium, the insurance contract cannot start at all, right? So the premium amount plays an important point wherein we can start the contract. So without the payment of premium, the insurance contract cannot start at all. Then we have the next essential of insurance contract, that's called legal relationship. See, when the two parties enter into an agreement, their major objective or their intention would be to create a legal relationship between both the parties or between both of them, right? So there will be a lot of papers wherein both the parties should read with each other. Especially the person who is going to take the insurance should read the terms and conditions. Then only he has to sign on all the documents. Then we have agreement not declared void. That means the agreement must not have been expressly declared void by any law in force in the country. Then we have legal formalities. This is very, very important. So it must comply with the necessary legal formalities, which includes stamps, formalities, etc. And we can even include a certainty and a possibility of performance, wherein an agreement to do an act which is impossible of itself cannot be enforced, basically. So these are some of the very important thing that is essentials of insurance contract. Next, after understanding the essentials of insurance contract, we'll try to understand the significance of insurance. So why insurance is basically required, or what is the significance of insurance? The first and the foremost, what we have understood is protection against the risk of loss. Correct? The main function of insurance is what? Is to provide the protection from the unanticipated losses. And such protection provides a degree of freedom and let them take reasonable risk, leading to the growth of business and even other activities. Then we have distribution of risk. See, when I said distribution of risk, the insurance contract transfers the risk to insurance provider, who in turn distributes this risk over a large number of individuals. So when I say large number of individuals, the people who have entered into the contract, or the people who are paying the premium, or the people who have taken the insurance policy. So whenever a loss is suffered by the insured, the impact of such loss is borne by such contributing members. So it results in minimal burden on an individual, and it helps in minimizing the risk burden and proper working of the business. And then what we are understanding now is significance of insurance, or why exactly an insurance is required for any individual or company, right? So the first thing what we understood was protection against the risk of loss, and the second thing was distribution of risk. And then the third very important significance of insurance is capability of facing the cutthroat competition. Now, when I say cutthroat competition, in almost all the sectors, in almost all the industries today, there is a lot of competition which is going on. There is a cutthroat competition. So modern businesses, they have to face massive competition in terms of pricing, in terms of quality, in terms of final product is concerned, in terms of the manufacturing process, everywhere. So the sharing of risk through insurance allows the businesses to work in the efficient manner, and even it increases their ability to take risk. And then formation of capital is one of the important significance. Then specialization of labor, then optimum utilization of capital. This is one of the very, very important significance of insurance. What is optimum utilization of capital? That is investment with an insurance policy, that is premium what gonna pay, allows a business to devote its capital for what? For productive business purposes. So without insurance, the business will need to provide for contingency, which is not a productive use of business funds. Then advancement of loans is one of the, again, significance of insurance. So when I say advancement of loans, I think a majority of life insurance contract or life insurance, it may be used as a collateral for obtaining a loan. And similarly, if the business is insured, then its credit worthiness is enhanced. So this makes it easier for the business to obtain loans and even credit advances. Then the next significance could be mobilization of small savings. See, insurance helps in raising savings made by people. And these small savings are aggregated and invested to industrial sector, which helps in the industrial development of the country and in turn improves the economy of the nation. Then we have the next significance of insurance, that is social security, right? So today what we are seeing now, a lot of deaths are happening, uncertain events are happening at a very rapid pace. So the first and the foremost thing is being an individual, you are supposed to protect yourself as well as you are supposed to protect your loved ones or the family members. So the significance of insurance, the very important term here is social security. That means insurance is a form of social security which helps in providing a sense of security to the society. So it may also be used for saving for retirements and even for the old age. And it is very, very useful in case of untimely death of a breadwinner of the family. That's very important. See, because your importance you will be knowing only during your absence. The family members or wherever you go in the society, so your actual importance will be known to the people only during your absence. So insurance is actually useful in case of untimely death, which happens, which untimely death in the sense you are seeing a lot of cases now. Now we are hearing every day a lot of unexpected deaths which are happening due to COVID, right? So untimely death of the breadwinner of the family. So this insurance actually is very, very beneficial. So next important part here, we have to understand the historical framework of insurance. See, insurance came into being as a result of revolt. Almost 5,000 years ago, from such a modest beginning, insurance has now become an important factor of production and has assumed the status of one of the world's leading industries. We say that your welfare is my responsibility. Majority of the companies believe that your welfare is our responsibility. So insurance is as old as the civilization. So it was present in the form of mutual help. So what we are understanding here is the historical framework of insurance. So origin of insurance is lost in antiquity. It is still a subject of research. See how old this concept of insurance might be. See, originally speaking, insurance was developed by an Italian merchants. From Italy, the insurance spread along the trade routes to other countries of Europe, including Spain and England. The use of insurance applied in the accounts of North Italian merchant banks that then dominated the international trade of Europe at that time. And very important, please understand, one of the oldest insurance form is marine insurance. So marine insurance is one of the oldest form of insurance because the patterns that have been established and used in England followed in other countries also in the field of insurance. And insurance journeyed and reached India along with the business and the rule of England basically. So the writing stock in terms of pooling of resources that could be redistributed in times of calamities such as fire, floods, epidemics, and famine. And then this was probably a precursor to modern day insurance. So ancient Indian history has preserved the earliest traces of insurance in the form of, as I mentioned to you, marine trade loans and even the carrier contracts. And students, please understand, the marine insurance is one of the oldest known type of insurance and one of the earliest records of a marine policy, which relates to in the year that is 1347, which was in Mediterranean voyage. And marine insurance in India, specifically speaking, there is evidence that marine insurance was practiced in India some 3,000 years ago. So it was the British insurers who introduced the general insurance in India. So the British opened the general insurance in India around the year 1700. And the first company known as the Sun Insurance Office Limited was set up in Calcutta in the year 1710. Then we will understand the origin of life insurance, or when this life insurance came into existence, or why the term life insurance came. See, the actual origin of life insurance is hidden in the midst of antiquity. That means the early development of life insurance was closely linked with the, again, marine insurance. So, those early contract took the form of a temporary assurance covering the life assured for a short period only. The first recorded life policy was issued somewhere in the year 1653 for 12 months. So it was not until early in the 18th century that societies began to be formed for issuing life insurance. And then when we understand the life insurance in India, life insurance in its present form came to India from UK with the establishment of a British firm, Oriental Life Insurance Company, that too in Calcutta, I think somewhere in 1818, that is 1818. Then what happened slowly, the British company started life insurance business in India, thereby issuing the policies exclusively on the lives of European soldiers and civilians. So the first Indian company, named as Bombay Mutual Life Assurance Society Limited, was formed in the Bombay in December 1870. That was the first to cover Indian lives at normal rates. Then very important, what we have to understand is the reforms which happened in the insurance sector is amazing, absolutely amazing. That was in 1993. The committee under the chairmanship of R.N. Malhotra, which was set up to evaluate the Indian insurance industry and the recommended its future direction, submitted in the year 1994. And its major recommendations, the committee recommended, revolved around the structure and the regulations of insurance industry. So the committee led some of the major regulations related to the insurance industry. And the committee has identified a number of problems in the insurance sector at that time and placed various recommendations in its report. For what? For the changes in its structure and the functioning and the general policy framework, keeping in mind the reforms underway in other parts of the financial sector and the economy. Now we'll try to understand, because this is one of the important part to understand here, the major recommendations of the committee. The main recommendations were the government should bring down its stake in the insurance companies to 50%. So these were some of the major recommendations proposed by the committee, that is under the chairmanship of R.N. Malhotra in the year 1993. And the private companies with the minimum paid up capital of 100 crore should be allowed to enter into the insurance industry. That is when the competition will be there. So remember this, students, whenever the competition enters, the ultimate beneficiary will be the customer in terms of pricing, quality, because people now they compare. If you visit Policy Bazaar, each and every policy you can compare with the premium rates over there. And the third recommendation of the committee was no single company should be allowed to transact the business in both the life as well as general insurance business, which was a very important recommendation. And the number of entrants should be controlled. Then foreign companies may be allowed to enter the industry in collaboration with the domestic companies. See, this is where when we speak about the liberalization, the privatization, and the globalization, when the foreign companies entered into Indian territory in collaboration with the domestic companies, they started doing the business in India. Basically, they understood the potential of Indian market. And then the fifth recommendation was postal life insurance should be allowed to operate in the rural markets. That was one of the major untapped markets. And the postal life insurance was aggressive at those days because people trusted the agents, the local agents over there, rather than the companies which are operating in the cities. So these people that trusted the local agents, they used to give the premiums to him and he used to go and pay to the post office. And then the mandatory investments of LIC life fund in government securities need to be reduced from 15% to 50%. So what we are studying now, students, from the major recommendations of the Malhotra committee. And then the promoters holding in a private insurance company should not exceed 40% of the total. And then next we have the regulatory and the prudential norms, as well as the conditions for ensuring the level playing field among insurers should be finalized early, so that intending entrants into the insurance business would be aware of the stipulation they would have to comply with. And very important was a strong and effective insurance regulatory authority in the form of a statutory autonomous board on the lines of SEBI should be set up. See, every financial sector today has got a regulatory body. Say, for example, banks has got regulatory body as Reserve Bank of India, and then equity market and equity market related operations has got a SEBI as its regulatory body. In same lines, what committee told was a strong and effective insurance regulatory authority in the form of a statutory autonomous board like SEBI should be set up. And then the state level cooperatives should be allowed to set up cooperative societies for transacting life insurance business in the state. So after the release of this committee report in the year 1994, changes in the industry appeared. So that was very important. But what happened, students? The dramatic climax came on 7th December 1999. See, so much time it took. The committee proposed in the year 1993, and then the release of it was released in 1994. Then after the dramatic climax came on 1999, when the government finally passed the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, that was IRDA Act. So this act repealed the monopoly conferred to the Life Insurance Corporation in 1956 and to the GIC, that is General Insurance Corporation, in 1972. So the authority created by the act, please understand, the authority which was created by the act is called as IRDA, that is Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority. So the IRDA constituted in the year 2000 under the IRDA Act 1999. So, which was vested with the power. What was the major power? To regulate and develop the insurance and reinsurance business in India. Right? So, very important to understand this. The IRDA constituted in April 2000 under the IRDA Act in the year 1999. With the major objective, he was to regulate and develop the insurance and the reinsurance business in India. Then what was the impact of the reforms on insurance sector? We'll understand that. In spite, students, in spite of phenomenal progress of LIC of India, especially in 1980s, the government and the public at large were not quite satisfied with it, because that was the only company which was operating in India. See, government of India became committed to opening of insurance sector to private sector, local and even global operators. See, before market liberalization, LIC sold mostly savings plan, with the premium being tax deductible in the hands of customers. So protection business was relatively small proportion of its total business. So before LPG, that is, when I say LPG, please understand that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. Before LPG, distribution was entirely via agencies. The focus of many new entrants has been to implement multi-channel strategies, including bank assurance element. So even what happened was, when a lot of players started entering into insurance sector, there was a tough competition in the market. There was a tough competition for LIC, and even banks and other financial institutions, they started selling insurance product. So they are, bringing international experience, new technology, new channels of distribution, and even new products. New products, when I say innovative products, are there now today. And LIC has also charged up with the new channels of bank assurance. And even, I think you might be seeing the ad, LIC recruitment is going on. So direct marketing and the chief, like insurance advisors, restructuring along with the traditional agents and even the development officers channel. So the existing public sector players are also gearing up with the matching strategies so as to face the competition. So the biggest beneficiaries, I'm repeating once again, the biggest beneficiaries of the liberalization of the insurance sector with the Indian customers. So always remember, when there is a tough competition in the market, obviously the beneficiaries will be whom? The end users. Correct? So while there may be not be any significant benefit in terms of the cost of premiums, but they would surely benefit in terms of the number and variety of the products and the service standards. Consumers have a wider choice now of insurance schemes. Furthermore, the claim settlement would be customer friendly. So you only just imagine, students, now sitting in any remote place, you can compare the policies. Just visit paisabazaar.com. You can compare the policies, and you yourself can purchase the premium. So you can, it's ultimately, who are the beneficiaries here? It's we people, right? So liberalization of the insurance market came about in 1992. So with the passage of Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority Act, IRDA Act, which opened up the insurance industry to private investment and created the IRDA Act. The insurance sector had been a public sector monopoly earlier. I think your parents might be knowing this. Only when we speak about insurance till now, they only tell about, we know about LIC, because they were in monopoly and people used to trust that, right? So this limited liberalization only permitted up to 26% foreign investment in Indian insurance companies. So foreign insurers were also allowed to open a license branch in India with the official permission from IRDA. So what happened there in December, somewhere in 2011, the IRDA issued the IRDA regulations. That was in 2011, which permit certain life insurance companies in India to go public, subject to the regulation by both IRDA and SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India. So when I told you that it will go public, that means insurance companies can come up with an IPO. They want to raise funds from the public. So the regulations only allow life insurers that have completed 10 years of operations in India to go public. Correct? So these regulations were seen as a significant step forward in India's nascent private life insurance sector. So the IRDA even announced that it will be soon be issuing the final IPO guidelines, and already I think you might be knowing the guidelines have come, and majority of the companies have even applied to the SEBI for coming up with an IPO process. See, when I say liberalization of insurance market, we understood now liberalizing Indian insurance. That is, the new economic policies were announced in 1991 by the government of India with a major focus on LPG. That was liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Under the new policy, and new economic and financial reforms were initiated. Then before going to the next part, we'll try to understand who are the market players of insurance today. See, the insurance industry of India consists of more than 55 insurance companies, of which 24 are in life insurance, and somewhere around 30 are in non-life insurers. So among the life insurers, the major would be the Life Insurance Corporation, which is the sole public sector company. I'm repeating the word, sole public sector company. And apart from that, among the non-life insurers, there are 6 public sector insurers. And there is a sole national reinsurer that is called as General Insurance Corporation of India, that was GIC. And some of the major market players in the life insurance, which is Life Insurance Corporation, that is in public sector. And then we have other companies like Tata, Bajaj Allianz, Birla Sun Life, SBI Life, Kotak Life Insurance. Then we have HDFC Life Insurance, ICICI. And what I am understanding here is today almost all the banks have started their own insurance company or insurance business in India. We have ICICI Pru Life. Then we have IDBI, Fortis Life Insurance, Canara. And then we have DLF. Like that, plenty of players. And some of the major market players in the general insurance includes National Insurance Company Limited, then New India Assurance Company Limited. So these are government bodies basically. And then Oriental Insurance Company Limited and United Indian Insurance Limited. And some of the private companies which are operating in general insurance companies include ICICI, Lombard. Then we have Tata, Bajaj Allianz, Reliance, then Royal Sundaram Alliance, and Star is again, they have entered. HDFC is there. Then we have Shriram, Bharati is there, SBI is there. Almost all the banks today, they have started their own insurance company, both general as well as that is life as well as non-life. Then after coming, we'll try to understand the life insurance, or when it was started basically. See, this life insurance business in India, as I mentioned to you, started from 1818. So there was a nationalization of the life insurance companies, and it was formed into one known as Life Insurance Corporation of India in the year 1956. So the business of life insurance in the hands of LIC, the post and other telegraph departments and all provides the life insurance to its employees, but this is very less as compared to the volume of business. Then regulation of Indian insurance business. See, what is this regulation? We have to understand the framework or the regulation here, the rules and responsibilities applied to the insurance industry in India. See, with the passing of IRDA Act, which was in 1999, reforms in the insurance sector were initiated in India. And the major goals of IRDA was to safeguard the interest of insurance policy holders. That was the primary objective of IRDA in India. As well as to initiate the different policy measures in order to help sustain the growth in industry. And IRDA opened up the market in August 2000 with the invitation for applications registration. So what happened there? Foreign companies are allowed ownership up to 26%. So totally there are more than 24 life insurance companies and more than 27 general insurance companies, and even one insurance company operating in India. So please see the slide here. We will understand the regulation of insurance. The first thing what I'll be covering now is Insurance Act 1938. See, the Insurance Act of 1938 was the first legislation governing all the forms of insurance to provide strict state control over insurance business. So in order to provide better insurance cover to citizens and also to augment the flow of long-term sources of financing infrastructure, what happened was the government reiterated its announcement in the year 1996 in its budget speech. Then after that, to open up the insurance sector and also to set up a statutory body, which was IRDA. See, majorly any statutory body in India, the finance sector is concerned, the first objective, please understand, would be majorly to protect the people who have invested. So the IRDA Act was enacted in 1999 to provide for the establishment of the IRDA to protect the interest of policyholders and to regulate, to promote, and even to ensure uh, the orderly growth of the industry and for the matters connected. So the IRDA Act 1999 provides for the establishment of an authority to protect the interest of insurance policy holders and to regulate, to promote. See, promotion of the business is also required. So this regulatory body will also help or assist in coming up with a lot of innovative products and even the ensure of orderly growth of the insurance industry. It also aims to amend the Insurance Act 1938, the Life Insurance Corporation Act 1956, and the General Insurance Business Act 1972. So that was about the Insurance Act 1938. Then we have eligibility restriction, eligibility registration here. Please see my cursor, the second point. So what we are studying now, we are understanding the regulation of insurance. In this, we are covering the second point, that is eligibility registration. See, eligibility of Insurance Act, that was 1938. What it says is, the act applies to all the types of insurance business, let it be life, fire, marine, etc., done by the incorporated in India or elsewhere. So it also governs the provident companies, mutual offices, and even the cooperative societies. Then assessments in or dividing insurance business is also prohibited. So when I say registration of the business, no person after the commencement of this act begin to carry on any class of insurance business in India, and no insurer carrying on any class of insurance business in India shall, after the expiry of 3 months from the announcement of this act, continue of any or carry on such business unless person has obtained from the controller. That is very important. Okay, a certificate of registration for the particular class of insurance business. Now, every application for registration shall be accompanied by, we are understanding the second point here, students, that is eligibility registration. See, a certified copy of the memorandum and articles of association should be there, and then name and a valid address and occupation of directors should be mentioned. Then after that, a statement of the class or classes of insurance business done or to be done should be mentioned. Then, a certified copy of the published prospectus should be mentioned. Then finally, the receipt showing payment in the prescribed manner of the prescribed fee, which shall not be more than 500 rupees, should also be mentioned. Then section 3(2)(a) of this particular Eligibility of Insurance Act says that on receipt of the application for registration and after making such inquiry as a person deems fit, the controller is satisfied, the financial condition and the general character of the management of the applicant are sound. See, very, very important is the person who is promoting or the management should be really financially very sound, right? Otherwise, if the contract has been signed with the company as well as with the individual, then when the insurance company is not in a position to pay the money during some untoward incident, then what is the benefit of taking that? Right? So the management people should be financially very, very strong, and the volume of the business likely to be available to, and the capital structure and the earning prospects of the applicant will be adequate. The interest of the general public will be served. Always remember, the customers are the king. So whatever they say, it has to, in the benefit of all the people, the things should be implemented, or it has to be corrected and it has to be rectified. Then there are few conditions wherein the controllers can cancel the registration of the insurer. When the insurer fails to apply, or the insurer is in liquidation or adjusted as insolvent, the business has been transferred to any other insured, or deposits have been returned to insurer, defaults in complying with any rules, or insurer has any reason to cancel. So controller will give notice of his decision not more than 2 months before the termination. Then after that, the capital requirement. So what is the capital requirement here? See, no insurer carrying on the business of life insurance, general insurance, or even the reinsurance in India on or after the commencement of the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority Act, that is 1999, shall be registered unless, number one, a paid up equity capital of 100 crore Indian rupee INR in case of a person carrying on the business of life insurance or general insurance. Or the second condition would be a paid up equity capital of rupees 200 crore in case of a person carrying on exclusively the business as a reinsurer. So these are the capital requirements which we call as section 6 of regulation of insurance. Then investments of assets, that is approved investments, it was laid down that 55% of the net life liabilities of an Indian or a British insurer should be invested in Indian government, and approved securities with at least 25% in Indian government rupee. And all other companies had to invest 100% of their Indian liabilities in Indian government and approved securities with at least 1/3 in Indian government rupee security, that is INR. Then approved investments. See, when I say approved investments, securities are guaranteed as to principal and interest by the government of India. Then debentures or any other securities for money issued by any authority that is constituted under any housing or building scheme approved by the state government, or by any authority by constituted by any central act or act of a state legislature. Then after that, preference shares of any company which has paid dividends on its ordinary shares for 5 years immediately preceding, or at least 5 out of the 6 or 7 years immediately preceding. Then shares of any company on which dividends of not less than 4%, including bonus, have been paid for the 7 years. Then fixed deposits with the banks included for the time being in the second schedule to the Reserve Bank of India Act. Then we will understand what we are studying now, the regulation of insurance. Licensing of insurance agents. Students, you simply cannot go and sell the insurance products. So you should have a valid license for that. So what are the licensing required for the insurance agents here? The controller authorized by him in this behalf shall be the prescribed manner, and the payment of the prescribed form which shall not be more than issued to any person making an application in the prescribed manner. He has to clear the IRDA examination. See, in case of an individual, or individual does not suffer from any of the following disqualification, the person should not be a minor. The person who wants to enter into insurance industry cannot be a minor, or that individual is found to be unsound mind by a court of competent jurisdiction, he cannot enter into insurance sector. Or the individual that have been found guilty of criminal misappropriation or any criminal breach or cheating or forgery, so he cannot sell the insurance product, provided that at least 5 years have elapsed since the completion of sentence imposed on any person in respect of such person, that his conviction shall cease to operate as a disqualification under this clause. And we have the last one, very important. They might be asking even in the examination, like explain the duties and powers of IRDA. This is one of the important point here, that is in the regulation of insurance. So I'll explain today the IRDA duties and power, and I'll stop the session here. As everybody knows, IRDA being the regulatory body of Indian insurance sector, the primary objective is to safeguard the interest of the policy holders and to provide them fair treatment, right? So that is the major role of IRDA. So it was enacted in the year 1999 for the purpose of designing the policies and also for safeguarding the interests of the public and also for regulating, promoting and ensuring the proper growth of the insurance industry in India. Then after that, some of the major role of IRDA includes the second important role to ensure the speedy and the proper growth of the insurance industry in order to benefit whom? Regular public and the economy of the nation. Right? See, till today in India, there is lack of awareness. Lack of awareness. People will not take the insurance. If certain untoward incident happens, they don't know what is the benefit of this insurance. So, the third important role of IRDA, that is being a regulatory body, to set the benchmarks for the performance of the insurance industry. Then, for ensuring that the policy holders are provided with correct and clear information. See, it has happened a long back that a lot of false information has been given regarding the insurance, and it was the people have been taken the insurance. Mis-selling of financial products has happened, and that should not happen because IRDA is there to protect or to safeguard the interest of all the people and to ensure that the claims are settled in a fair and a fast manner. It is one of the major role of IRDA. And it also ensures that there are no insurance frauds or malpractice which is happening in the industry or in Indian insurance industry. And to ensure that for promoting fair practices, transparency, and even the proper conduct in the industry should happen, right? And the next role of IRDA includes to take adequate actions to ensure that the standards are properly applied, and finally to evaluate proper amount of self-regulation in the industry. And very important thing is the technology upgradation will be happening in the insurance sector, right? So that more and more transparency is there in the sector, or more and more anytime any information is required, the people should be getting regarding the insurance sector. That is one of the primary objective here. The transparency should be there about the insurance. Then coming to the major duties and powers of IRDA. So what are the major things? The first and the foremost thing is registration. Registration of what? The insurance companies are concerned. That is issuance, renewal, withdrawal, and cancellation of certificate of registration. That is one of the major power of IRDA. Then protection. That means it aims to safeguard the interests of the policy holders. So it also takes care of other issues such as nomination, settlement, surrender, and even the terms and conditions of the contract. See, very, very important. I even appeal to all of you, please check the policies what you have with your parents also. The proper nomination should be there. Otherwise, unnecessarily, you should be running behind getting the things done to the company, sitting over there if the proper nomination is not there. So please ensure that wherever your parents have invested, so proper nomination should be there and the relation should be mentioned over there. That is your prime objective. Okay, being a legal son or daughter of your parents, ensure that a proper nomination is there for any financial investment done by your parents. If the proper nomination is not there, please appeal to your parents that immediately the nomination should be made. Then after that, qualification. So it is entrusted the task of setting up the code of conduct, benchmark, and even the qualification. So efficiency. IRDA promotes the level of efficiency in the industry, and even IRDA promotes and regulates the organizations related with the business of insurance and even the reinsurance. And very important is the act also determines various fees and charges to be levied. And IRDA may also call for the information, conduct inquiries and audits of the insurance business as well as the related organizations. And very important is premium income. It also specifies the IRDA also specifies the percentage of the premium income which may be used for different purposes. And it also specifies the requirement of rural and social insurance business to be undertaken by the insurance companies, and it needs to exercise other powers which may be assigned from time to time. So these are some of the major duties and power of Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India, which is one of the regulatory body of insurance sectors in India. So by this topic I will stop the today's session. Hope all of you have understood. Tomorrow we'll be continuing with the next part of this, that is IRDA Act 1999. Thank you so much for your patience listening, students.